Come onto the parade ground, followed by the two non-royal colonels. Well, the Queen's first task is to inspect the line of guards. Senior Director of Music, Lieutenant Colonel Kevin Roberts of the Welsh Guards, appointed in March this year. Music changes to the Welshman, which is another selection of traditional Welsh tunes by a former Director of Music, Lieutenant Colonel Peter Hannam. The Queen is wearing the brooch of the Brigade of Guards. Its motto, Quinque Juncta in Uno, 5 joined in one, featuring the badges of the 5 Foot Guards regiments, was made initially for Queen Mary. Household Cavalry, the only regiments allowed to present a sovereign standard on today's parade. Inscribed on the standard are the regiment's battle honours and the Royal Coat of Arms. This year it's the sovereign standard of the Life Guards. The standard bearer is Squadron Corporal Major James Fitzgerald, who who served in the Life Guards since 1989. The procession will soon pass the King's Troop, who will make a thrilling contribution to the parade later on. And their lead gun is in effect their colour, has the same status, which is why the head coachman is saluting. The Major of the parade is Major Tom Parsons, commissioned into the Scots Guards in 2001, the ensign for the Queen's Birthday Parade in 2002, second in command of the Welsh Guards in July 2014. And the man in charge of all the troops on parade, Major General commanding the Household Division, Major General Edward Smith Osborne. Riding Merlin today, he's been Major General since 2013. So a very proud day for Lieutenant Colonel Kevin Roberts, his first birthday parade as Senior Director of Music. He represents the very rich musical tradition of the regiment. He's just the 5th Welsh Guards Director of Music to be appointed Senior Director.
Well, this year is my first year as the Senior Director of Music of the Household Division. To stand on horse guards in front of a mass bands of 200 stunning musicians, it is the pinnacle of a career. Throughout the whole of the Queen's Birthday Parade there are Welsh music elements, and we're very keen that the Welsh Guards who are on parade feel the sense of pride in their regimental music. And to be doing this in the Welsh Guards centenary year is just outstanding.
Well, we are hardly impartial observers, Richard, when it comes to Welsh music, but we can expect some very good tunes today.
We can indeed. There are going to be some wonderful arrangements with a Welsh theme and a link to Waterloo, of course, as well. It'll display the skill and flair of directors of music, past and present. And music's important to this parade. It's there to raise the spirits, and I defy anybody not to march past Her Majesty and stand a little taller, march a little taller to the regimental quick and slow march. But of course, music is a little bit more important than just raising spirits. It's a key part to keeping step, and the bass drummer, particularly the lead bass drummer, Lance Brocklehurst from the Scots Guards, is key to making sure that the parade and the Guards remain in step.
Well, the mass band's preparing to play one of the most enduringly popular military marches, Les Huguenots. It's been part of the parade since 1871. Colour Sergeant Charles Hancock, centre trombone, gives the signal for the mass bands to change direction and counter-march. Quick March is Canatex, composed by Sir Vivian Dunn, the only man to be knighted by the Queen for services to military music. At one time he was Director of Music of the Royal Marines Band on the Royal Yacht back in the 1930s. The lone drummer breaking away there is Lance Corporal Christopher Rees from Maesteg in South Wales, marching to a position to the right of the escort, ready for the next phase of this parade. And this is the second time for him in this role. He joined the Welsh Guards in 2008 and he's completed 2 operational tours in Afghanistan. drummer playing 8 bars of a field signal called the drummer's call, recalling an age when all battlefield commands were given by drumbeat. And the orderly, Guardsman Stephen Winnell, marches forward to take the pace stick from Regimental Sergeant Major Paul Dunn, who can then draw his sword, ready to protect the colour in the next stage of the parade.
Remainder, change, arms, standard, east, escort for the colour, in close order, left, jack.
Captain Alex Major gives the order for the escort to take up their dressing in close order. That is a tighter formation for the march forward to collect the colour. On the eyes front, perfectly achieved.
Escort for the colour, will advance, by the left, quick march.
So the escort steps off very smartly to the rousing march of the British Grenadiers, stretching their legs, taking centre stage on their way to escort the colour, showing the results of weeks of hard work, and they'll hold 16 paces in front of the colour, ready for the collection to take place. It's a very proud moment for them, Richard.
It most certainly is. The mass bands have set the scene, and now we get on to the actual preparation for trooping the colour through the ranks.
Mass bands have turned around to face the colour party, and the Senior Director of Music makes his way through the band. And such a big moment for Regimental Sergeant Major Paul Dunn. After 23 years of service, he's from Gaerwen, Ynys Môn or Anglesey. He's preparing to take possession of the colour, protecting it with his sword, ready to hand it over safely then to the ensign, Lieutenant Ed Clark. neat and crisp transfer. Lieutenant Ed Clark receives the colour, places it in his white colour belt.
Escort to the colour! Restand out! Escort to the colour! Slow up!
So we're about to enter the central phase of this birthday parade, as the escort prepares to troop the colour through the ranks.
Escort to the colour! Change out! Escort to the colour will advance by the centre. Slow march!
You'll have noticed that it's no longer the escort for the colour, it's now the escort to the colour, now that the colour has been safely received. The escort advances in slow time. The bands play Escort to the Colour by Richard Ridings, played at this point in the parade since 1978. And this is the point at which the bands have to negotiate a rather daunting manoeuvre. I suppose you could call it the military equivalent of a three-point turn. It's known as the spin wheel. So we have some 200 musicians supported by 40 members of the Corps of Drums having to change direction without changing formation. It's a bit of black magic, if you like. So the escort prepares to troop its colour. And a big moment too for the field officer at this point, Richard.
It certainly is. Shortly the mass bands will move. The field officer will have to do a rather long rein back, which is one of the more difficult parts of this parade. But he's been practicing this with Winston for a long time.
So the music changes to the familiar Grenadier slow march arranged by Fred Harris as the escort prepares to troop the colour through the ranks. And it's a good moment for us now, at this central part of the parade, to reflect on what the colour represents.
The colour represents the spirit of the regiment. Our forebears have fought under it and for it. It's always saluted, it's always protected wherever it goes, and it's a rallying point for the regiment. And interestingly today, just looking around the crowds, it's a rallying point for veterans as well. Notice veterans from the Welsh Guards from the Second World War, Aden, Northern Ireland, the Falklands, Afghanistan, Iraq. So they've rallied round today, both veterans and serving.
And it's worth noting, most of the battle honours are on the colour itself.
They certainly are. Not all of them, but most of them are on there. And of course the most recent one was the Falklands from 1982. And indeed, uniquely, there are 3 Welsh Guardsmen on parade today who fought in the Falklands. Garrison Sergeant Major, Chief of Staff of London District, and the Regiment of Welsh Guards. And of course there is a 4th person on parade, which is the Duke of York, No doubt there are others, and there are many others in the stands as well.
Well, of course, it's a real test for the guardsman chosen to carry the colour. The ensign, Lieutenant Ed Clark, watched now by millions around the world, perhaps more important by his family and friends in the crowd today.
The colour itself is incredibly heavy, and so in order to prepare for that, the practice colour that we use is slightly heavier than the real thing. So on the day itself, you're able to flourish without any hiccups, hopefully. My family are going to be coming to the birthday parade, which I'm very, very happy about. My brother in particular, he's hoping to follow in my footsteps. And absolutely his plans are to join the battalion, so hopefully soon there'll be another set of brothers serving with the Welsh Guards.
I mentioned that the Queen had presented new colours at Windsor in April. One question viewers may want to ask is what happens to the colours they replace?
The old colours are laid up, and they're laid up around Wales or around the country in churches that are chosen by the regiment. This year they'll be laid up on the 24th of September in St Mary's Church in Carnarvon. Carnarvon Castle, of course, is where the Prince of Wales was invested to be Prince of Wales. So that's rather a nice connection with him being 40 years as our colonel as well.
Escort to the colour will advance. Left, turn. Escort to the colour. Change and escort to the colour. Guard. Slow. Out. Officers, take post. Quick march. Numbers 1 to 5 guard will return. Up, turn. Steady. At the halt. Right form. Quick march.
The familiar music played by the Corps of Drums at this stage, composed shortly after the Second World War by Drum Major Tom Burkitt of the Coldstream Guards.
Numbers 1 to 5 guards will advance. Up, turn. Number 6 guard, press order. March. Move to the right in 3s. 4 3s. Right. Guards will march past in slow and quick time. By the left. Slow. March.
So the trooping phase is complete and the march past in slow time is about to begin. This is the neutral slow march, is called Parade March by the great French composer Charles Gounod. Last played, by the way, at the birthday parade in 1867. And Gounod is said to have heard the music played at Hyde Park Barracks by the band of the 1st Life Guards. This arrangement by the late Fred Godfrey of the Coldstream Guards. All of the Welsh Guardsmen on parade today acutely aware of the significance not just of this occasion, the birthday parade, but of this year for them, because Welsh Guards were raised by order of George V back in February of 1915, and they saw active service just 6 months later on the Western Front. There's a rich tradition and distinguished service to mark and to celebrate today as well, Richard.
Absolutely, we were raised in war, and very shortly after being raised we were forged in battle at the Battle of Loos in September, and there was a lot of pressure on those people at the time. We were formed from across the army, but a lot of our founding members came from the Household Division, a lot from the Grenadiers, and we've picked up some of our traditions from them. Glad to say we've left some of their habits behind, like their inability to say yes or no.
They won't thank you for that.
Probably not, no. But we have a lot to thank them for, because over 300 members of the Grenadiers joined the Welsh Guards right at the start. And in that first battle, at Battle of Loos, there was a lot of pressure on those going into battle not to let their fellow Welshmen down and not to let the Household Division down as well. And I'm glad to say that at that battle at Loos in 1915, they achieved every objective that they were set.
Field officer, Lieutenant Colonel Giles Harris, the major of the parade, Major Tom Parsons, leading the way. 1st Battalion Welsh Guards trooped their colour in 1949. That was the first year after the war that the parade was carried out in the full glory of these scarlet tunics and bearskins, because the first birthday parade after the war was in 47, and that was done in battle dress. Welsh Guards trooped their colour for Her Majesty the Queen for the first time 50 years ago in 1965. At that time the Queen was riding on parade at Horse Guards accompanied by the Duke of Edinburgh, who at that time was Colonel of the Welsh Guards. As they prepare to pass the Queen, it's a good moment to underline the very direct and intense relationship between the Guards and Her Majesty.
We're uniquely placed to be able to conduct this parade in front of Her Majesty. It's a real honour to be able to march past Her Majesty and look her in the eye when one marches past. And so there we are, marching off in front of Her Majesty. She does have an exacting eye. She will be taking in everything that is going on in this parade, and Her Majesty will pass on her pleasure or displeasure, depending on how it goes later.
Music changes to the Welsh Guards slow march. Men of Harlech. The ensign lowers the standard, passing the Queen. It's known as the flourish. Cymru am byth, prominently displayed on the standard there. Wales forever. When the ensign raises it, that's known as the recover. Prince of Wales is celebrating 40 years as Colonel of the Welsh Guards. He succeeded his father back in 1975.
We're very lucky to have His Royal Highness as our Colonel. He cares passionately about the regiment and about the Guardsmen as well, and he's been particularly kind and generous to those who've been wounded and to those of the families of the fallen as well. He cares passionately, and it comes through loud and clear in all that he does for us as Welsh Guardsmen, and indeed the other regiments of whom he's Colonel-in-Chief.
Music changes to the Scots Guard Slow March, the garb of Old Gaul. And the Coldstream Guard Slow March, familiar Figaro by Mozart. The adjutant of the parade is Captain Charles Beer of the Welsh Guards, and rather than follow his father into the Royal Marines, Captain Beer decided to follow his grandfather into the Household Division. His grandfather was in the Life Guards and served in Palestine during the Second World War, and he's learned to ride especially for today's parade. So the field officer rides out to salute the Queen now that the slow march past is complete.
There's the field officer saluting Her Majesty before he then moves down to the corner to break into quick time.
We're listening to Lord Wellington's March, which was composed by Princess Charlotte of Wales. We're now talking a long time ago. The only child of George IV and Caroline of Brunswick, gifted musician, and it was suggested by Prince Charles for use on today's parade because, of course, we are marking the bicentenary of the Battle of Waterloo. So we've already enjoyed the precision of the drill in the slow troop, but the escort is aiming for perfection in every activity today. We joined them recently to see how they've been preparing.
My name's Guardsman Singleton. I'm on the Prince of Wales's company, and this year we will be manning the escort to the colour.
Rehearsals this year has been a lot more stressful, pretty much because it's centenary year. Everyone wants everything to be on point, so the Regimental Sergeant Major wants more rehearsals to get everything perfect pretty much for the day.
My brother, he was in the Welsh Guards before me. He was in mortars for 8 years, and he told me it was brilliant, so that's I joined.
The toughest moment of the birthday parade is when you have to stand still for a long duration of time, basically discipline within yourselves and within the members of the actual guard itself.
To be honest, you don't really see the crowd, you don't realise the cameras are on you or anything. You're just concentrating on doing what you do. Make sure you're the smartest you can be.
On the day of the birthday parade, it will be a different atmosphere for us. It's kind of like, yeah, this is it. This is our time now.
Just a sense of the preparation there, because there are one or two tricky moments in this parade.
There are indeed. We're about to change from the slow march to the quick march, And this is where the teamwork really matters with the band and the troops.
Quick! Time! Quick! March!
And there we have it, expertly done. Band and guards working together.
So we're ready for the march past in quick time. Style changing and the tempo quickens, a new sense of dynamism. And the neutral quick march is Toc H. It's composed by Joseph Mansfield of the Irish Guards. So many Welsh Guardsmen on parade today, and a story I love to share with people, and you can underline it, Richard, is the fact that there are fewer surnames in Wales. I suppose lots of Joneses and Davises and Thomases, so there's a way to get around that.
There certainly is. It can get somewhat confusing with only about 6 names on the nominal roll. So known each other by the last 2 numbers, or on occasion by the last 3 numbers if 2 are the same. It's slightly odd to other people outside the regiment to understand that people call each other by 2 numbers. But one anecdote, when I returned from operations once, were families there to meet us, and there was a Scots Guardsman with us who was bemused when 16's mother called him by his last 2 numbers as well. And in good Welsh Guards humour, there's a few jokes that go in there as well. So Peugeot is known as Peugeot because of his last 2 numbers, 205. So there's plenty of jokes in there.
Well, in that spirit, the right marker of number 3 guard, by the way, Sergeant Matthew Davis, is, surprise, surprise, Davis 96.
Yeah, Sergeant Davis 96, who's been around for a while, left the journey and recently left the army and recently rejoined the Welsh Guards, which is great to see him back.
Well, among those enjoying the parade in the stands, the Prime Minister and his wife Samantha. Mr Cameron, of course, just a month or so since he was re-elected to number 10 for a second 5-year term. Some Commonwealth heads of government in the stands, as well as Mr Cameron's guests. Michael Fallon there, the Defence Secretary. Lots of interest, of course, in the spending settlement for his department in next month's budget and the months ahead. March past in quick time. Almost ready to pass the saluting base, and Her Majesty once again. The Welsh Guards quick march, Codiad yr Ehedydd, the rising of the lark. Queen acknowledges the colour. And a word about number 3 company as they approach. During the Second World War, they acquired the nickname the Little Iron Men due to the fact that number 3 company traditionally has the smallest men in the battalion, though captain of number 3 Guard, Major Tim Badham, is 6'4", I think, Richard.
Yes, we seem to have a tradition of that. All the shorter guardsmen go to number 3 company, but they have a habit of putting the taller guards officers into that company. In fact, it was my first company as well.
Quick march of the Grenadier Guards, the British Grenadiers. For number 4 Guard, Nijmegen Company Grenadier Guards. The Scots Guards quick march, Helen Laddie. F Company Scots Guards, an incremental company of Scots Guards based in Wellington Barracks. Youngest Guardsman, Guardsman Morrison, turned 18 just a month ago. And the Coldstream Guards quick march, Milanolo. And the ensign of number 6 Guard, of Sam Company Coastline Guards, is Lieutenant Hugo Bartlott in his first Queen's Birthday Parade. He's following the footsteps of his uncle, grandfather and great-grandfather in military service.
And in number 6 Guard, plenty of family tradition there. We've also got the Subaltern, Lieutenant Joss Bucknell. His father is Colonel of the Coldstream, also on parade today.
Once again, the field officer in brigade waiting salutes the Queen. And the mass band's playing the neutral quick march now, Heroes of the Flag. Thomas Bidgood, one of Britain's finest military composers, very popular during the Boer War and the First World War. Well, the commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Giles Harris, has a moment of pause now, just a moment before the next stage of the parade. He's been telling us how he's been preparing for today.
My uncle commanded the battalion in the early 70s, and he commanded this parade, and it's because of him, really, that I joined the battalion. The boys will, they'll prepare, and we'll give orders, and we'll rehearse, and there's always an element of doubt as to whether, we're going to produce the goods. But certainly on operations, when it all starts getting serious, something happens, and the guys just raise their game, pull together and do amazing things, and I've got no doubt that that's what will happen on the parade square.
And a nice thing to note, watching his grandson lead the parade, is Lieutenant Colonel Harris's grandfather, Colonel Donald Easton, MC, late of the Royal West Kent. He's at home. He's organised a special troop party there. We wish him well, of course. We hope he's enjoying the parade. He was awarded the MC in the Battle of Kohima in the Burma campaign of the Second World War. How will Giles be feeling now?
Job well done. So far, so good. A moment to pause and settle down while the Household Cavalry and King's Troop have their turn, but we'll just get them back into line before the mounted troops have their moment.
Officers, take post! Quick march!
And the colour now taken to the front of the escort, ready for the next stage of this Queen's Birthday Parade.
In open order! Left and right! Gas! Last band will move to the right. Right! Turn! By the left! Quick march!
The Foot Guards have reformed, and it'll very soon be the turn of the mounted troops to pass the saluting dais. And you see there the mounted bands of the Household Cavalry moving on to Horse Guards, led by the Director of Music, Major Craig Hallett, riding Vain Glory. And the two magnificent drum horses. We've got a new one actually on the left there. That's Adamus for the Lifeguards. Only young at Clydesdale, 8 years old. This is his first Queen's Birthday Parade. It takes 3 to 4 years to train the drum horses. So we've got Mercury, who's very experienced. He's a Shire horse. Adamus, as I mentioned, a Clydesdale. Adamus ridden by musician John Codd and Mercury by musician Chris Diggle. And now a hugely dramatic section, the thunder of hooves. The parade ground will be shaking because the King's Troop move on to take their places. It's the 18th year that the King's Troop has been on parade, and they joined the ceremony at Horse Guards on the request of the royal family. First took part in 1998. And the duties of the King's Troop include the firing of the royal gun salutes on royal anniversaries and state occasions. And this May they fired a special 41-gun salute from Hyde Park to welcome the new royal arrival, Princess Charlotte. Their motto is ubique, as in ubiquitous, meaning everywhere. The motto of the Royal Artillery in recognition of their participation in every theatre of war.
King's Troop, Royal Horse Artillery, Royal Salute! Hey! Right!
So Her Majesty surveys the scene, and it is a wonderful scene. The King's Troop, Royal Horse Artillery, looking magnificent as ever. Major Robert Skeggs took command of the King's Troop in August last year, and this will be his 4th Queen's Birthday Parade, his first as commanding officer. The lead gun prominently on display, in effect the colour of the troop, accorded the same reverence as the Guards' colour. And these big 13-pound guns are the real thing, by the way. They were used in action in the First World War. Only 25 of these guns in existence today worldwide. And one of them is rumoured to have fired the first round at the Battle of the Somme. The music changes to the regimental slow march of the Life Guards. Field officer of the Sovereign's Escort, Major Warren Douglas of the Life Guards. His first and last parade as field officer for the Queen's Birthday Parade. He leaves the army in June 2016. Standard bearer for the Life Guards, Squadron Corporal Major James Fitzgerald. New standards were presented to the regiments by the Queen last year. Music changes to the Blues and Royals. Regimental slow march. 2 divisions of the Blues and Royals. Serafile captain is Jeremy Sudlow, who's been with the Blues and Royals squadron for 14 months. Corporal of Horse Mark Doran has spent the last 11 years at the Armoured Regiment, where he completed tours of duty in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the farriers past the Queen.
You see how solidly those drum horses stand. They know what's going on. And now we have the first of the trot tunes. This is Tikar Cardiff, the traditional song The Red House of Cardiff, one of the most famous dances of the Nangaru tradition from the South and Valleys regions of Wales. And it's a cool day, which is good for the horses, but there is quite a breeze out there, so you can get under their tails and just gee them up a little bit. But all of them behaving well for this sitting trot. Never the most comfortable of gaits as a rider, but everybody looking good. Is beautifully turned out. 300 hooves will have been oiled this morning, and that riding kit has been stripped and polished for a week. And the saddle today, unchanged since 1904, was designed to be ridden in for days at a time. Commanding Officer Major Robert Skeggs is riding Lucy Glitters, who's a very experienced parade horse. 5 Queen's Birthday parades under her belt. She's very calm on parade, but she can be a bit strong. I'm reliably informed she's got a mouth of iron, which means very insensitive. And the guns of the King's Troop, each pulled by 6 horses who have their manes hogged, gives the horses a sleek look, but also for practical reasons. It means that harnesses can't snag in it. Today, the tallest officer in the King's Troop, the centre section commander, Captain Nick Watson, is actually riding the smallest charger. She's called Miss Wordsworth. She has a rebellious streak. She's taking an intense dislike to bus stops, apparently. We move on to the Household Cavalry. And the last time that horses of the Household Cavalry were used in war was 1940, when the 1st Household Cavalry Regiment deployed to Palestine. The regiment was mechanised in 1941.
Well, for their birthday tribute, the mounted bands, led by Major Craig Hallett there, saluting in their unique way. Kettle drummers crossing their sticks as they pass the saluting platform. And the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh. Worth noting that the drummers control the reins with their feet, and that's obviously a remarkable performance by all the musicians, considering they have to ride and play, as Claire was underlining earlier. And a splendid sight, members of the mounted bands in their musician state coat, which has remained unchanged since 1685. So very soon the mounted band will come to a halt, and the director of music there will signal that he's handing back control to the field officer, and that will allow everyone to understand that it's time for the final birthday salute to the Queen today.
Royal salute! Present! Out!
time the guards dress. All the guards in one long line, and remarkable to think it's a precise move. It's accomplished without any word of command being given.
Guards will form 3 ranks. Form 3 ranks. Guards will retire. Uphold. 10. At the halt. 5 divisions. Right form. Quick march.
Guards getting ready to march off, closing up to reduce the length of the procession along the Mall.
Divisions will advance. Uphold. 10. Guards on the escort form close column. Remainder, quick march.
Chord of drums playing Prussia's Glory by Gottfried Piefke. And the pace stick will be returned to the regimental Sergeant Major, all done by the orderly, Stephen Winnell.
Of course, the Queen's Birthday Parade is one of the few occasions when a regimental Sergeant Major draws his sword on parade.
Guards, left, dress.
Left guide of the escort, Company Quartermaster Sergeant Doug Bick. We spoke to his wife Nicola at the start of the programme. He joined the 1st Battalion Welsh Guards in 1997. Originally from Blackwood in South Wales.
And that's Sergeant Guy Murray from the Prince of Wales Company. Rugby is a big tradition for us. He's the battalion prop.
And making his way to the approach road as we get to the end of this parade, Garrison Sergeant Major, London District, Warrant Officer Class 1, Bill Mott of the Welsh Guards, and his successor, Vernon Stokes, who will take over these considerable duties from tomorrow. This is Bill's final birthday parade. He's been in post for 13 years. He's played a central role in organising some of the biggest state events of the past decade. We'll be talking to him a little later in the programme to mark the end of his remarkable contribution and career in the armed forces.
Her Majesty's Guards are ready to march off, man.
Field officer then saluting Her Majesty, asking permission to march off. And now again, one of the more difficult parts of the parade, sitting trot with a bearskin is not the most comfortable or easiest drill movement to do.
And achieving it well, you think?
Absolutely, doing very well indeed. A good combination there of Charles and Winston.
So preparations being made for Her Majesty the Queen to process with the guards along the Mall back to Buckingham Palace. And we're all looking forward to the traditional birthday flight past by the Royal Air Force a little later on. The Ascot Landau, the 19th century carriage, being brought back to the saluting base. And in these closing moments of the parade here at Horse Guards, Richard, it's worth you telling us and letting us in on a few secrets about the moment at which the commanding officer becomes aware of the royal verdict on what's gone on.
There is only one judge of how this parade has gone, and that's Her Majesty. After the parade, I'm sure Her Majesty will have a chat to Lieutenant Colonel Giles Harris and let him know how it's gone. But from a layman's perspective, from where I'm sitting, it's done an exceptional job, and I'm sure Her Majesty will be pleased with the way it's gone this year in our centenary year for the Welsh Guards.
First carriage procession. The guests who were in the Horse Guards building, Duchess of Cambridge, Prince Harry, Duchess of Cornwall, already on their way back to Buckingham Palace. They too will be looking forward to the flight past by the Royal Air Force. They'll all be appearing on that famous balcony. Prince Harry there, turning 31 in September this year, and spent 4 weeks in April and May seconded to the Australian Defence Force, and he then went on an 8-day tour of New Zealand. And while he was there, he reflected on his time in the armed forces. It's worth just sharing those words. He said, "I've had an epic 10 years, I've had great fun. The army keep giving me great jobs, and I can never thank them enough."